يا الخوت، مرحبا بكم في فيديو جديد وآسف جديد. كنعتذر على التعطيل. هاد المرة جبت لكم آسف غريب من نوعه، اللي هو آسف 1135 أو القرية الحية. وهي قرية معزولة في ولاية الهند، حيث في موقع المنظمة هدفت اسم هذه القرية قبل استحواذها عليها، إذ تحتوي القرية على ما يقرب من منازل، بالإضافة إلى العديد من الأماكن التجارية ومعبد هندوسي. فهيكل المباني غير عادي بالنسبة للمنطقة، حيث أنها أكبر ومبنية بمواد أكثر تقدما من الناحية التكنولوجية من القرى الأخرى في المنطقة. جميع المباني مجهزة تجهيزا كاملا بمياه جارية ساخنة وباردة وكهرباء وصرف صحي، وهو أمر غير معتاد في المنطقة. أيضا من غير المعروف كيف تتلقى المنازل الكهرباء، لأنها غير متصلة بأي شكل من أشكال المولدات. بالإضافة إلى ذلك، فإن طرق القرية وعلى امتداد كيلومترين حول القرية معبدة بالكامل بالإسفلت. يكشف التحقيق في مواد البناء عن وجود خيوط من الألياف العضوية تمر عبر جميع المباني، وأي تركيبات دائمة في القرية لم يتم إدخالها بواسطة قوة خارجية. لا يبدو أن الألياف تعرض للخطر سلامة أي هياكل، حيث تمتد هذه الألياف العضوية حتى 3 أمتار تحت الأرض، وتشكل شبكة تحت الأرض ب1135. تنمو هذه الألياف وتصلح نفسها، ويبدو أنها تمتص العناصر الغذائية من التربة، وعلى هذا النحو يعتبر الأرض ب1135 كائنا حيا مع بعض أوجه التشابه مع الفطريات. تعتبر القرية الحية أو الأرصف في 1135 كائنا حيا مع بعض أوجه التشابه مع الفطريات، قادر على إنتاج مجموعة متنوعة من المواد العضوية وغير العضوية حول نفسها، مما يسمح لها بإنشاء الهياكل الموجودة داخل القرية. يسمح هذا الهياكل بإصلاح نفسها، وتنمو المباني الجديدة بشكل دوري من التربة بشكل عضوي، مما يحافظ على السلامة الهيكلية في جميع الأوقات خلال هذه العملية. وقد صنفتها منظمة أصل كيرينا وكليب، وذلك لأنها ليست خطيرة على المجتمع. وهذا الفيديو التالي يوضح كل شيء قلته، وفرجة ممتعة.
SCP-1135 refers to an isolated village with an undisclosed name based in rural India. There are currently over 100 private residences within the village, in addition to marketplaces and a Hindu center of worship. While nothing would appear superficially anomalous about this location out of context, those with a more comprehensive knowledge of the area would immediately notice something was amiss here. The structures are far larger and more technically advanced than is typical for such a rural area. All the buildings in SCP-1135 are equipped with running hot and cold water, electricity, centralized heating, indoor plumbing, and a functional sewage system, which are atypical for an area expected to be in abject poverty. The roads in and around the village also seem to have been paved with asphalt and concrete, despite them having no known means of establishing this kind of infrastructure in the village. Strangely, there doesn't seem to be any kind of power grid or series of generators that would allow for electricity to run to these buildings. But that's only the start of the anomalous nature of SCP-1135, which is also known as the Living Village, for reasons you'll soon discover. When things really started to get weird was during the Foundation's investigations into the nature of the buildings themselves. They found that the buildings and all permanent fixtures of the town that weren't placed there by an outside force were filled with living organic fibers, as though the entire village had an interconnected nervous system. The fibers don't seem to harm the integrity of any of the buildings, and they run at least 3 meters under the ground, where they all connect. It appeared to the Foundation that this network of fibers grew and repaired itself independently, and was somehow drawing nutrients from the soil. The Foundation concluded that the village was a kind of huge living organism, most similar to a kind of fungus. What's truly remarkable about the organic fibers of SCP-1135 is that they are capable of quickly producing a wide variety of both organic and inorganic material around themselves, which is how they produced all the complex structures found around the village. The semi-organic nature of all the buildings in the village means that, if damaged, they can gradually repair themselves over time. And even more fascinating is that new buildings have been known to spring up around the town on occasion. maintaining structural integrity during every phase of the growing process. When space becomes limited, or resources become scarce, fibers within some of the buildings are liable to atrophy. This leads to certain buildings collapsing, disintegrating, and being absorbed back into the ground. SCP-1135 does appear to need some kind of sustenance in order to continue surviving and growing. Like less complex and anomalous fungi, the village absorbs water and nutrients from the surrounding soil. However, it also appears to consume waste left within the boundaries of the village, and will begin to experience a rapid decomposition process as 1135 absorbs its chemical energy. Interestingly, it seems that the waste absorbed by SCP-1135 leaves no unpleasant odor as a byproduct of its decomposition, nor are there typically any remains left over once the process is complete. The actual nature of this process is currently unexplainable. The Foundation also has no answers as to how SCP-1135 differentiates between waste and non-waste matter. But if SCP-1135 goes for a long period without feeding, it will begin breaking down its own structures for sustenance. And this process goes both ways. If SCP-1135 is fed enough waste, it will then reconstitute this matter and start creating new structures within the village. Or it will begin improving the structures already present at an increased rate. At this point, the Foundation believed they were dealing with a relatively harmless anomaly here. This isn't a man-eating location situation like SCP-002, as the feeding process of SCP-1135 exclusively affects non-living tissues. And even then, only non-living tissues that aren't actively in use. However, the Foundation would soon discover that the village had certain defense mechanisms that could potentially present a real danger to inhabitants and outsiders alike. Like many living creatures, SCP-1135 had evolved certain innate methods of avoiding harm. If humans or other animals cause substantial or repetitive harm to the structures within the village, the anomalous organism begins setting dangerous traps to keep itself safe. On the less lethal end of the spectrum, 1135 would devise pitfalls and caltrops, which are dangerous metal spikes sticking out of the ground. In the event of more severe attacks, though, 1135 has been known to produce elaborate and deadly traps that would indicate complex intelligence in a human. Thankfully, outside of attacks directly on it, SCP-1135 has shown no signs that it wants to harm humans or any other animal. If not triggered, these traps will completely disappear within 30 to 40 days, as SCP-1135 slips back out of its defensive mode. The village even seems capable of differentiating direct attacks from living beings and indirect damage caused by accident, and responds accordingly. This suggests that SCP-1135 may have higher intelligence than we first thought, but this will require further study before we draw any conclusions. SCP-1135 was first discovered by aid workers assisting development and recovery efforts in the area. While interviewing local people, they said that new buildings had literally just sprung up overnight. There were at least 1,000 residents of the anomalous village when the Foundation first intervened. And when interviewed, the residents reported that the village had exhibited anomalous qualities for some time before the Foundation arrived. This anomalous behavior began when the village became the site of a sustainable housing development scheme, supposedly created by an organization known as the Mana Charitable Foundation. At the time when SCP-1135 was first discovered, this didn't ring any bells for the Foundation researchers. However, in the years since, the Mana Charitable Foundation have proven to be involved in a number of other anomalous causes investigated by the SCP Foundation. The MCF is a group of interest that poses as a charity organization with a particular focus on humanitarian and environmental issues. Its approach to treating these issues, however, is purely anomalous in nature. All residents of the area were expelled and relocated, given Class A and Class B amnestics as well as implanted with false memories. The Foundation also kept a close watch on local aid providers, scoping out any further anomalous activities or ties to the Mana Charitable Foundation. No results were found for either. While the activities of SCP-1135 have largely remained the same, there has been one strange new development. After a routine observational expedition through the village, several buildings grew what appeared to be working electronic security cameras. These cameras have been observed to track waste disposal and research teams as they move through the village, and to conduct periodic sweeps of the village when undisturbed. Nobody knows where the feeds of these cameras are heading, or who could be watching the Foundation's activities here at any moment, and this could constitute a potential security risk in the future. A request to destroy the cameras has been submitted to the director of Site-36. As it stands, the answer is currently pending. While SCP-1135 has shown no active attempt to escape, thus not quite earning it the Keter class, the fact that it is still a developing anomaly with some tricks up its sleeves leaves gaps in the Foundation's understanding of it, at least until further research is performed. As a result, SCP-1135 has earned itself the Euclid Containment class. SCP-1135 is located within the boundaries of Site-36, and is cordoned off by a 3-meter-tall chain-link fence, within which is a 4-meter-deep moat filled with powerful hydrochloric acid and a layer of impermeable plastic, in hopes of preventing the underground fibers of the village from spreading out beyond its confines. The area within this perimeter is checked every 3 days by a team of unarmed researchers. These researchers, however, are required to travel in teams, keep a constant visual on each other, and carry 2-way radios, as a result of SCP-1135's potentially shifting geography. If the village starts to show any hostility whatsoever, the researchers must leave immediately. Only teams of D classes are permitted to enter the village in a 40-day period after this kind of hostility is noted, for fear of dangerous traps. 500 kilograms of trash from Site-36 is placed within the confines of SCP-1135 every single day, as a way of keeping the anomaly fed and maintaining an amicable relationship with it. Nobody is permitted to cause any damage to SCP-1135, unless it's explicitly ordered by the Site Director of Site-36 in order to prevent a major containment breach. No explosive materials or other items capable of major structural damage to SCP-1135 are permitted within the security perimeter without approval from the Site Director either. The Living Village may not be one of the most dangerous SCPs, not by a long shot, in fact. But what's so interesting about it is the sheer number of unanswered questions still popping up around it. How intelligent is the village? Does it fit into some grand plan from the Mana Charitable Foundation? And most interesting of all, who is watching the Foundation through those strange little security cameras? Perhaps one day we'll find out, and only time will tell if we come to regret it.
أتمنى أن يعجبكم هذا الفيديو القصير، وشكرا على المشاهدة. إلى SCP جديد، إلى اللقاء.